Hello and welcome to the channel. Thanks for joining me in my little chat today. And before I start, I just want to let everybody know that the most recent edition, I think is the correct word, of the light paper, The Uncensored Truth, issue 66, is up with a headline of The Great Bank Robbery. And it says how the system robs you. And in the centre pages, it's fascinating how inflation has risen over the years and how the banks are, it's effectively another tax, isn't it? And if one can find the centre pages, I could actually show you. They are in here. I think they're in the centre. So if I go there, I'll be able to, I suppose one could have prepared it a bit better, but there we go. Anyway, if you can get a copy, there's usually people handing them out in different places at different locations, or of course you can go onto the Light newspaper website and have a look. I always like to give them a plug because they give you an idea of what's going on in the world that obviously other papers and the mainstream media just do not want to talk about. And if you think, let's say, that it's all just conspiracy nonsense, it's good to know what the conspiracy people are thinking about, because it does seem that yesterday's conspiracies are today's truths. So there you go. Anyway, I'm not talking about any of that, but I mention it because the very nice people there have said that they will do a feature on my book Biggleswick, which would be nice. Biggleswick, the town that wouldn't comply. If you want a copy, send me an email, richard@vobes.com, and I'll tell you how to buy it. Excuse me having a little bit of a slurp of my drink. Now, today's just a gentle little chat because as you know, Julia and I have got a bit of land. And by the way, The English Couple is out today. You may wish to catch up with that. And really, I want to explain where this channel is going more and more because as I've mentioned in many of the videos that I have said, it's time that we take responsibility for ourselves. There probably isn't a saviour that's coming over the hill with the white horses to save us all. And I think even if there was or is, then it's probably best that we are already prepared to look after ourselves. As you know, I had some rather painful and nasty muscle problem after falling over in the van on the land, and it's been 3 months until really and truly I could say that I'm back to some sort of normal health. Not 100%, but maybe 85 to 90%. I'm building back my strength. And I'm very proud to say, much to the annoyance of many people, that I didn't go to the public enemy number one, the doctors and nurses of the NHS, particularly the GP, who would have put me on steroids for 6 months. I'd still be on them, and I would then have to come off over 3 months, and that wouldn't be fun. And yet I'm almost back to health, ready for the spring. And so, you know, I say I'm quite proud to do that I didn't have to resort to these newfangled pharmaceuticals, which of course come, as we all know, with a whole list of side effects, including death, by the way. So that's really sad. And talking of death, just as a side note, Julia and I I haven't been on Facebook for a long time, but we'd been advised that one of the places to get some good second-hand stuff for our land, for our farming project, was Marketplace. And I happened to log on to Facebook. I didn't really want to, but Marketplace, as I say, has been advised as a great place to contact people for things. So I did look at that, and then up popped somebody I know, and he was talking about somebody who had died. And it's interesting how many people are sort of keeling over. Everyone I talk to now, somebody in their family has died, and in sort of things have come on rather rapidly, and that's very sad. And yet we did talk about a certain medical intervention that everybody took that didn't really sort of take any notice about what might be in it. They were so scared by another sort of false flag, a virus that supposedly was going around, basically a common cold, or an exaggerated version of that, even if that even existed. And people rushed, didn't they, because they were worried about dying from this thing. And then the government were forcing it down our throats. And now, 5 years later, we heard those rumours, didn't it? It would take 5 years before we'd start to see mass deaths. And it does seem like we're beginning to see it. Where I live, we're on the route to the hospital. And you can almost time your watch to the nearest ambulance. You know, if you need a lift, just flag them down because they go past the house so regularly. Cheers for a minute. It's cold, isn't it? It's cold everywhere, and this winter has been pretty bleak. It's meant that Julia and I couldn't get onto our land as much as we like and get on with the farming project, which is there to, well, for us to take responsibility for ourselves, to grow some food so that we know the provenance of that food as much as we can, as well as make friends with other people who are doing the same so that we can barter. And that's been something, again, a thing that I've been chatting about for some time. Yesterday, the lovely Julia and I went and looked at tractors. There's a gentleman nearby where I live who has, I don't know, about 3 or 4 acres of land. We went there yesterday. Lovely chap, really knowledgeable. He's a collector and a dealer, I suppose, and he's been doing this, mucking about with tractors. Used to have a farm and various things. All his life, and vintage tractors we're talking about. Tractors up until I think the 1980s, he said, that he's interested in. Not these great big ones that you'll see on Clarkson's farm or the big farms where they've got massive ones, but for small scale people, and we are very small scale, Julia and I, not in our own stature, but in the size of the land that we've got and our ambitions for what we want to do. And we'd been interested in getting a little grey Fergie, and we're sort of now opening up our horizons to a number of other vintage tractors that are still going, that are not too expensive, that don't need a huge amount of mechanics, and incredibly, the parts from tractors from the 1930s, 40s and 50s, etc. are still available. These tractors, of course, a lot of them went abroad into some of the third world countries as we started to get bigger and larger and have monoculture, and tractors became huge monsters with massive amounts of ploughs on the back and could do incredible stuff, but mainly on flat land. And farmers went down the forced, I suppose in some ways, world of commercial farming rather than family farming, and got stuck with government contracts. They got stuck with artificial fertilizers and all these nasty glyphosate poisons that they utilise, pulling up hedges and getting bigger and bigger until you couldn't go into farming unless you had several £1 million in the bank and that you had massive amounts of land. And of course that has now become a bit of a ball and chain round their necks, because they're wedded into these contracts and they're having to supply rather nasty people like the supermarkets who want to do processed food and vitamin deficient, mineral absent foods that people think is food because it comes in a colourful box and they can slip it into the microwave. But those of us who have a memory and a little bit of common sense and critical thinking can go back to the time when the greengrocers sold food from local farms that was organic. They didn't need to call it organic, it just was food that came out of the ground, or was animals that were on the ground eating the food that had been grown within the farm. They didn't need these artificial foods coming in to feed them, which are being bulked out with goodness knows what. And as a number of us, of course, do remember those days and think that it's essential that we get back to lots of farmers growing lots of stuff for lots of people, rather than the nonsense that we're in now. And so these little vintage tractors are still working and are still great workhorses. Julia and I went and had a look at the whole range of different things. And this gentleman, I mean, it was amazing. He had many bits and spares and vintage tractors that were being done up, those that were done up, ready to be sold, as well as Land Rovers and other all millicenary of farm equipment. It was absolutely fascinating. And he was so enthusiastic and he knew his stuff. And of course, he's talking about all of this stuff. And we, Julia and I, as novice farmers, I mean, you know, you may not even want to call us farmers, but as growers, as people who are going back to the land and learning as we go in the English couple, and you can watch that, we were enthralled by his knowledge and understanding of all this stuff, but a lot of it was double Dutch, as any new subject is. We're off today to have a look at another tractor, and you know, try and learn as much as we can before we make the decision. But we know we need one, but not too big, but powerful enough to do the various simple tasks that we do. After all, I fell over in my van and enthusiastically went back to work and sort of for a period buggered up my body. And I know that actually the romantic idea of only using manual tools in this day and age is not sensible. And of course, as this gentleman pointed out, he said, well, you know, in the old days, they had horses to help them, or oxen. They weren't doing it all themselves. They utilized what they had available. We have tractors available now. They are prohibitively expensive if you go for new ones. But these old ones, which don't have all the electronics and all the nonsense that they have, and GPS and all this sort of stuff, they're very basic, humble, wonderful workhorses. And we're interested, of course, in buying British at a time when British farming was incredibly respectable. And so that's what we're aiming to do. And of course, this channel, as I say at the beginning of this little chat to you, is going to be talking more, I suppose, about the behind the scenes of what we're discovering and what we're getting up to, buying tractors, planting various things, building things, learning about getting back onto the land. And the English couple is where you can see us actually doing those things. So hopefully the two channels will work with a symbiotic relationship. And occasionally there will be bits of promotion for some of the truther events that are going on, because I don't want to leave all our friends and that knowledge behind. But it is time that we, as I mentioned in a video not so long ago, that it is now time just to get on with it. We've got to get on with it. Whatever it is that floats our boat, so to speak, water probably, whatever it is, I think instead of worrying, as we all have been, about the news and Prince Andrew's been arrested and things, all this sort of stuff. I didn't even know he'd been arrested till the lovely Julia informed me, and she didn't know until someone, you know, something popped up. But people are sort of still happy to be distracted by all the nonsense and not move on. And they're worried about whether Trump's doing this or whether he should be doing that, or whether this country is doing this, or the money's going to collapse. And so many YouTubers are just still spouting out all the fear. And I say, with great respect to them, it is time we just get on and claim our lives back and do the things that we really want to do, and ignore those that are dressed up in stupid costumes with their epaulettes and their silly equipment and their wigs and gowns and their social so-called officialdom, who are trying to prevent us from thriving. And it's time that we just got on with it. And that's what we're doing in the English couple. We're just getting on with it. We know that there is a crisis in food. We know that we need to learn over the next 2 to 3 years, as we understand the land and as we understand the process of growth. It's not going to happen overnight. Of course it's not. Of course it's not. Anything new takes time. And you learn those skills slowly by getting on with it. And so that's what we're going to do. So I hope that's been of some interest. We you know, we're going to share what we do. If it inspires people, that's great. Just before I go, I had an email yesterday from somebody who was really quite suicidal for a while, and he was arrested. He said he was, if I got this right, if I remember correctly, he was disabled, and he suffered from depression and various things. And police turned up at his door wanting to arrest him for a crime he didn't commit. It was actually nothing to do with him, but they were convinced it was him. They got the wrong person. But instead of admitting they'd got the wrong person, they doubled down. They took him in. He said, but surely I can go and get my care. I need somebody with me. No, they took him to the police station, interrogated him, charged him, I think, or the case then was going over for several years. And this poor chap was worried about the outcome of what was going to happen as a result of this, you know, going to court and various things for 4 years. And he said, I got to the point where I was absolutely suicidal. I just didn't want to live. And I know a lot of people get to that point with the worry when bailiff letters come in, demands from these people come in and whatever. And I know exactly what that feels like. And he watched, this chap, he happened to watch one of my videos in which I was interviewing somebody who talked about an organisation. Can't remember exactly the name of the organisation myself at this moment in time. It's in the email. And he said he contacted this organisation. This organisation swiftly got on his case and dismissed it. Just like that. 4 years of worry about what might happen to him, becoming to the point where he didn't want to live anymore. And this organisation sorted it out very swiftly. And he said, Richard, if it wasn't for you, and it wasn't really any of my doing, I just happened to interview somebody who happened to mention this. But he said, it was your video that introduced me to that. He said, if I hadn't watched that, I wouldn't be here today. And so, you know, if any of what Julia and I do on the land influences people to give it a go in whatever it is, areas that you want to do. I mean, I'm 62, you know, and of course I'm not as strong as I was. And one's liable to fall over and hurt oneself. And people have been saying, oh, you're too old to do this. You're too old, give up, you shouldn't do it. Well, we don't listen to all that kind of rubbish. We don't listen to that. We get on with it. We get on and we do it. And if that inspires somebody else to do likewise, to get out of a rut and say, do you know what? I'm just sitting here looking at screens. I'm not having much of a life. I'm going to do those things that I'm passionate about and have always wanted to do. Don't leave it till it's too late. Get on with it and thrive and enjoy your life. Thank you for watching. I will no doubt talk to you soon. The English Couple is there. Do go and check it out. And you'll soon see, not in that episode, but you'll soon see what tractor we end up with and whether we make a complete and utter balls up of it or not. It's going to be jolly good fun. Cheers for now.